Good afternoon. This is Mrs. Solis here teaching you how to combine like terms when we have fractions in front of the variables. I know they're not your favorite, but we still have to learn how to do them. Okay, so we're going to apply the same thing that we've been doing before. We're going to go ahead and look for like terms. Like terms have the same variable to the same power. So the coefficient doesn't matter, but the variable part does. Okay, it has to be the same power. So right now I see that I have an x term and an x term. The plus or the minus in the front tells me if it's going to be positive or negative, so I don't want to forget about it. I'm going to go ahead and box my 5, 7x, and then I'm going to go and box my negative 9, 14x, so that I know they're like terms, they have the same color. At home, if you have highlighters, then you want to highlight them the same color. Because it's a whiteboard, I can't highlight, but I can box them with different colors. I'm going to take and rewrite these vertically so that I know they belong together. So I'm going to take the larger fraction and put it on top, or the one that appears to be larger at the time, negative 9 14ths x, and then I'm going to line up the positive 5 7x right underneath it. Okay, and then I'm going to box it together so that I know that they belong together. And I don't forget that those two need to be added together or combined. Now I see that I have a constant of positive 15 and a constant of negative 9. So that means the 15 and the negative 9 need to be combined. They need to go first together. So I'm going to go ahead and line them up vertically just like I did with my fractional coefficient variable terms. So I have 15, and then I'm going to line up the negative 9. And I'm going to go ahead and put them together with the same color. So now I have to go back to my integer rows. Do I see same signs or do I see different signs? I see different signs, so what does that mean? That I have to subtract the terms. Because the denominators are not the same, then that means I have to do a little bit more work. Since I'm going to do a little bit more work here, I'm going to jump over to the integers, because that means this is less challenging and less work for me, so this one's going to move a little bit faster. So 15 take away 9, I go ahead and subtract that, and I get a positive 6, and it's positive because 15 has the greater absolute value. So I keep the greater absolute value sign of the integer, okay? So that will be a positive 6. So over here, with my fractional coefficients, the denominators are not the same. So what does that mean? That I need to write equivalent fractions with a common denominator. So I want the common denominator between 7 and 14. So the one number that they both go into at the same time. Not divided by, but that they both can create, so I want a larger number. So 7 actually goes into 14, so that's their least common denominator, and that's the one I'm going to use. I'm going to write the equivalent fractions right next to them. So this is going to be 14, that's your new denominator, and here's my new denominator of 14. In order to write an equivalent fraction, I have to ask myself, what did I do to 7 to get to 14? Well, I had to multiply it by 2. So whatever I multiply the denominator by, I have to do the same to the numerator. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. 5 times 2 is going to end up giving me 10. I go to the top. Well, 14 is already 14. So I'm just going to copy the negative 9. I'm just going to move it over. I don't need to do any extra steps because that denominator was already 14, so I could just leave it the same. Now I'm going to apply my integer rules. So do I see same signs or do I see different signs? I have a negative and a positive, different sign, difference. That means I'm going to subtract. So 10 take away 9 leaves me with 1. And then I have to keep the sign of the numerator that has the greater absolute value, which is the positive 10. So that means it's going to be a positive 1 over 14, and we still keep the x. So once I've done that and I've simplified each of the variable terms, the constant terms. Now I'm just gonna put it all together. Okay, so over here on the side, I have 1/14x and then positive 6. I cannot simplify it anymore when I do not have any more variable terms, when I do not have any more constants. I need to make sure that I wrote it in alphabetical order. X is first, constant is last, and also by power. X to the first, x to the 0, because there's not a variable there, so there's nothing there. So it's in order from greatest to least by power. It's in ABC order. X is first, constant is last. That means it's in its simplest form. So the simplified expression is 1/14 x plus 6.
Yeah.